to tie that together. So there are three elements that I want to cover. This is a small group. I think there may be a few more people joining. So feel free to obviously interject, ask questions. It may make more sense if you are unclear on something and I can explain that. And then that way all the rest of the Lego pieces fall together better. But in the event that they don't entirely, I'm certainly available. And also you can have the content in video recording and possibly even on PDF format so that you can review later. So with that said, those three pieces I wanted to talk about were basically the storage, which is the data that in the end you want to secure and protect. I'm going to do, in order to keep you interested, I'm going to do a high wire act. I'm actually going to do a live demo, and we know how that goes. The reason being is that live demos are, I mean, you have very little control. You don't have access, and many people can come in and out, presumably affecting your infrastructure. And obviously, that's not the case in your environment because it's protected and it's controlled. And so that's not quite where I'm at. So this should be fun. The last piece of it will be the Zerto, which is the solution to this infrastructure that you're looking to protect. So with that, let me just kind of jump into the idea of creating your cloud on-prem. You haven't seen my email, but that's actually my stamp on my signature block. And it's a relatively novel idea to have your cloud on-prem. So let's just jump into that and kind of talk to that. So, many companies have portfolios. There's entire companies that are built on just a single product. In fact, most companies are built on a single product. And they're very good ideas, clever ideas, and then we can all share and borrow technology or leverage ideas to spread across. But at HPE, we actually have a portfolio within a portfolio. So not only do we have the storage, the network, and the server stack, which is the 3-2-1 kind of traditional infrastructure, we have a portfolio just in the storage alone. And this is an example of that. It's not all inclusive. And we have from the traditional dual controller RAID arrays on the left, MSAs, I think modular storage arrays was the name for them, but those never seem to go away. They're like the floppy disk of our industry. We've sold over 600,000 of those. We're like the McDonald's of storage, I guess, on that side. On the other side, on the other extreme, is our XP8. Those are kind of proprietary implementations of Hitachi bulletproof arrays that are used primarily for service providers. So if you have the need or the interest to provide an infrastructure service in this environment, you can do so on those kinds of systems. They're highly resilient. As far as I know, and I have looked into this, but as far as I know, we've been selling that for over a decade, and I know of not one incident where that thing has ever gone down. So it's a little extreme, but the price is also a little bit in there. Now in the middle, you see the line that kind of embraces intelligent data platforms. That's really more of the bread and butter. That's more of the business infrastructure. And there's a range of solutions, again, that we offer within that. We have the hyperconverged infrastructures, which is things like VxRail, like Nutanix, our SimpliVity. There's other technologies that basically are designed to just be a bunch of servers together. You just throw more into a pool, you keep adding more nodes, and it just keeps growing. What could be simpler? And it is simple, and people love it for that very reason. It does have a couple of faults, but anyway, the solutions are usually tailored to an environment, and that really is an edge solution for remote locations. In the middle, we have Nimble and 3PAR. 3PAR we've evolved into the Primera arrays, which are basically mid-tier storage technology, and then the Primera is really tier 0 N-way active guaranteed 100% availability. And by guarantee, we mean if it ever does go down, we cut you a check, for that outage. Again, a little bit different than service provider solution on the end that has everything redundancy, but these are all solutions that are very popular in the mid-tier environment, and they're all embraced by intelligent intelligence, which now the industry has adopted broadly, and I can touch on that. And of course, beneath that, there's a data protection. How are you going to back that up? So we have a solution, purpose-built backup appliances that can dedupe, compress, and pack, not just 4-to-1 type, 5-to-1 type of things that you're familiar with in the primary infrastructure, but these things are dedicated devices. Again, just to give you a frame of reference, kind of like the data domain, who was one of the pioneers in that area, or Avamar, for example. We have a StoreOne's dedicated appliance that can pack things like 30-to-1, 40-to-1 is not even unusual. So that's how you're going to back that up. And one more thing, we do have a disaggregated hyperconverged infrastructure. So that's kind of a disaggregated, aggregated, kind of an oxymoron. But I said that there were some issues or some concerns with adding more nodes in a hyperconverged infrastructure. It is very simple, but every time you want to add storage, you add a node. Every time you add servers, you add a node. That could add licensing costs, Windows costs, VMware costs, lots of things like that, inefficiencies, horizontal traffic, latencies across propagation delays, things like that. So we have a dedicated device built on our mid-tier platforms that basically have both. They're dedicated arrays, storage consolidation. Can't beat that for efficiency, for latency, for price. And then you can add nodes as you want, basically servers. But the code's still the same, and it looks, acts, and behaves as a hyperconverged. So we're actually the only ones in the industry that do that. Kind of a little bonus. So what happened? Spoiler alert: customers have gone to the cloud. And interesting number there that 91% of customers agree. By the way, anything over 90%, I think, is really 100%. Because I heard once that 10% of the people still believe that Elvis is alive. So I guess anything over 90% means everybody, or at least essentially everybody that you would encounter believe that basically, the cloud really is a solution to the issues of complexity and agility. And that's why so many people have gone to the cloud, but not everybody. And this is the shocking part to me, quite honestly. 70% of the people, or applications rather, have not gone to the cloud. That's surprising. And I think it makes sense because of some of the points I just mentioned with regards to DHCI. That a dedicated, centralized, consolidated storage is obviously more efficient, lower price, great improved latency. And that's what happens here. You don't get latency efficiency optimizations in the cloud. You got to go somewhere else. There's data gravity, which it's a good term. I've heard that the idea that data has weight, and so I don't know how much a terabyte weighs, but it's hard to move to the cloud, and it's hard to move back from the cloud. And that's the point on egress fees. It shocks people still to see that they have to pay to get their data back. So they call it the California hotel. You can check in, but you may not be able to check out. And so the idea is, how do we get this cloud experience that people want, and yet the applications haven't gone there? How do we bring that back to on-prem, which is how we started? And this is our approach. You saw a whole line, like a football team there lined up of different arrays. We can kind of get a color, which one matches yours. And what we've done now is basically have a new solution set called for storage called Electra. And that just simply means that it's in part, it's a rebranding. So now you don't have to remember all those terms, or thankfully I don't have to remember them. Everything's Electra, 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 Electra. And the technology is still there. It's just that the branding plus a model number tells you which technology. So now we have a series of Electras. We have Electra 5, 6, 9,000. These were announced initially at launch previous year on May the 4th. I always remember that because May the 4th be with you. all of our product management are geeks, true. But we have more Electras. We have Electra 4000, which is our Apollo software-defined storage, and we'll have more to come. So it's an ongoing program. But what Electra does, it's continues to simplify the connectivity. You can see cable in, power on, and the systems will be discovered by a console. Which console is that? This console. There's a cloud console that grabs the console of this machine, that machine, or a totally different machine, and it's all out in the cloud. And what that does for you, it allows you to basically abstract that storage. And look what we've done. The previous generation of Nimble and the Primeras, and actually not 3PAR, but the Primeras and Nimbles, we've put those on the cloud too. So what that means is that now you have an abstraction. You have the ability to see that abstraction. You can still see everything directly, no, not to worry. But everything then appears as a platform, as a service environment where you can actually put your applications. You can put it here, you can put it there. To paraphrase Dr. Seuss, you can put it anywhere. But it also allows you to create a portal for your customers, the different departments. If they paid for certain storage, you can be the wizard behind the screen that can control these arrays, but you can also just present a front. And I'll show you that because, like I said, I'm going to give you a live demo of what that looks like. So that's the idea. Traditionally, we talk about technology. It's important because you need to be able to decide what you're going to buy. But in the cloud infrastructure, you don't have that. You don't have that. You can have some service levels, but you can't really control what you're going to have behind that. And ordinarily, we have lots of technology and intelligence that in here referred to as HP InfoSite. And you'll see we've taken that and spread that across everything that we offer. So everything remains fast and simple. But here, a little kind of a thing that you've seen in the industry about technology or storage being cloud friendly, cloud ready, cloud enabled. And with what I'm showing you and what I'll show you live, it's really no longer, ready, friendly, or enabled. It's cloud. It's not cloud in that it's the cloud itself is on-prem. So for a lot of those uh, uh, applications that you still haven't moved to the cloud, you can do so by moving in locally. Now, this is supposed to do that. This is not a mistake. The problem with doing things on-prem is that things don't always work. It works great day 1, maybe even day 10, but not necessarily day 100. And it's difficult to find out what's going on. Everything's still running, lights are on, but people are calling you because it's not working, not the way it used to. And things used to perform, but they don't. So if they're not broken, how do you know what to fix? And that's the issue or the identification that we called the app data gap. What's wrong with between me and the end user and the application? And a lot of our data still holds these numbers to be fairly true. They vary, they range, of course, but it still tends to be about these percentages that in this entire stack of storage being at the bottom all the way up to the end user, most of the problems aren't even storage. In my case, they're not even our problem. And the analytics can show that and can identify where that is. It's what one customer of mine called MTI, mean time to innocence. How quickly can you determine that, hey, it's not my fault, storage isn't the problem? Honestly, I have a very large account, uh, uh, very well-known university. It has a very large hospitals there, and the entire department was pointing to storage, and we were able to prove where the problem actually was rooted. So it's not just being able to prove you're innocent, but being able to identify where the problem is. So how would you do that? Um, I mean, yeah, what we have is a lot of intelligence has been built into the code, into the OS, and also to the hardware. A lot of telemetry, a lot of data, insights. Don't really have the analogy to the race car drivers, but we do support Formula One race cars, and they have so much telemetry. Every little device is sending data. So that's what the case with our OS. And what info represents, it's really cross-stack telemetry being sent across the world. So any of our systems, anywhere. So if in Argentina or if in England somebody encountered a situation, we do cross-based analytics to correlate that, and I'll touch on that in a moment. And we can find out that, hey, this BIOS or the firmware driver of the HBA, of the QLogic or of the switch or of the ESX cluster of that version of that software in this kind of configuration, that new code seems to have caused the problem. And when we know that, we can learn from it anywhere in the world, so that we can tell you, and you know, so you don't have to do that. You don't have to step in that hole anymore. So we used to solve these problems with brute force. We used to do n-way configurations, lots of different ways to fail over, but now we can solve these problems as well with intelligence. And so now you can have two different customers. In reality, you can have two different environments. You'd have two different arrays, maybe a primary and a DR, maybe a development system. And depending on the version of the software that you loaded, the versions of that entire stack, we tell you, hey, upgrade to this version to prevent that from happening to you, or no, do not upgrade. This is not a good path because you might encounter a problem. This is just kind of a rapid fire listing of things that are tremendously important. But just in a nutshell, I mean, most of the problems now are done with AI. I used to have to justify and explain what this meant, but I think we all know now in the world of ChatGPT that AI is real. It's here. We've had it. And we can figure things out really, really quickly. It's hard to believe, but yes, you can call our, actually, again, it's on my timestamp, call tech support with some of our systems that now have that HPE info site that I mentioned early, and we've spread that across. And within a minute, you'll get a level 3 engineer, and the level 3 engineer has access to telemetry, things that you can't see beyond the dashboard. They have tools to dig behind that. And within 20 to 30 minutes, we find we can have root cause analysis. And the reason I say that's hugely important is because in the traditional environment, you went through a process. This is not an exaggeration. Quite honestly, this is a simplified version of it. I've gone through these myself with my own customers. We call, and is it plugged in? Did you reboot it? You know that solves 80% of the problems. But you got to check these things. And then, what happened? What did you do? No, I didn't do anything. It just didn't work. Okay, can you provide me the logs? Sure. Let's set up a time when we can do that. Let's set up a window. I'll try to get the logs. Let's set up Thursday. Maybe we can review it. Only give me time to review it. Let's do it next Tuesday. Anyway, it goes on and on. And then you got level 2 engineers involved, so on. As I said, you have a level 3. So we got this technology and acquired it and incorporated it into pretty much our portfolio. We do this with ProLiant servers. We do this with our Store Ones that I mentioned at the beginning of the talk. We do it with our Simplicity platform, which is our hyperconverged. And clearly we do it with Nimble, which is where we got this intelligence from initially. And instead, you can pick up the phone, dial that number, and within a minute, that's our SLA. You should get a level 3 engineer. You should try it out. You'll have this number. You can have it now. It's in my signature stamp. And I've called them up. Very nice people. They don't seem to be that busy necessarily. And you can ask them questions, and quite friendly about it. And if you have a question or concern, they would be able to address it directly. Now, I'm going to jump through 3 slides. I'm going to monitor my time. Again, I only have 3 sections. Yeah, I'm running out of time. The purpose of these next 3 slides is to show you what I said at the very beginning. You don't even have a choice to pick your storage in a cloud, but you do here. Why is that important? I'm just going to fly through these to kind of make that point. And that's because we have things in this technology. You can have an array that has certain capacity, or that has a certain amount of performance. But then, that's the end. What about, do I have to upgrade and get my next one? With our kind of technology, you can actually just, wheel another one side by side. And your application can stand on top of both of them, or in this case, 4 of them. We can have 4 of them, each of them with dual ports. Now you got eight ports coming out of a single, what architecturally looks like a single array. So, significant growth. Why is that important? We can have both hybrid flash, all flash. So hybrid will give you lower price, much higher capacity at significant, well, I always said lower price, um, but you can still get high performance that is flash uh, uh, performance ranges. And that's important, of course, because you can put your apps where they need to be. And you can move them around, you can test them, and once you got it tested, you can put it in the production environment when you need to, and stuff. You can put in larger capacities that don't require uh, such highest performance. So you get the best bang for your buck. And here's a very, very uh, common use case that kind of comes as a bonus. If you have an old array that you want to upgrade or migrate, how do I do that? There's lots of ways, many solutions. It's super simple with our technologies now. People do this transparently while they're operating. They get their new array, wheel it in, connect it. I see it. So instead of like a primary and a secondary as a DR, the way you normally see arrays, you can actually just see the secondary. I see it, and then but you just create a group. Yeah, let me make this into one group, and that's what I was alluding to before. And you say, hey, I want to take this pool that I have here, but instead of running on both of them at the same time, I'm actually going to move it to this guy over here. And it does it live. So performance actually increases. You can read from the old one and then write it to the new one or update it to the new one. And so, people might notice a new array came in and all of a sudden, hey, why is everything running better? And that's because you got a new one that has maybe lower latency, higher performance, and so on. And so what you can do after that is you can repurpose it, you recycle your array somewhere else, use it as a third site if you want to. You can use it as a DR target. You can use it as a test dev. You could just say, no, I'm just gonna, sell it. And you can just do away with that group, disconnect it, and there you go. That was the migration. So here's a pivot point as to, again, the point of those slides were just to let you know that the architecture and the technologies themselves matter. And that's probably part of the reason why they've not been able to move those workloads to the cloud. Speaking of which, we're not really known as a cloud company. HP's never been, I have a joke that, HP really is a bunch of engineers. We've never really been very good at marketing. And if we were to sell sushi, we would call it cold, dead fish. Technically accurate, but not the best marketing, to present. But nevertheless, we do have a program product brand now called GreenLake. And GreenLake is getting incredibly good recognition and very, the brand is really carrying broadly. So let me now show you what that is and why it's becoming popular. Okay, this is the Livewire Act. So let me see if Brianna, you're able to see my window with GreenLake on it?
I am, and I love
Okay.
the cold
Dead
cold
fish.
fish instead of sushi analogy. That was awesome.
Technically accurate. We're a bunch of engineers. Our logo, or not our logo, our brand or our moniker was invent, and we really do invent things. You saw the technology, and now what you're seeing here is it's like a tarp laid over all the infrastructure. And now you just have a portal. This is the cloud console that I alluded to in the diagram, but we have a lot of these actually. And we have Aruba console right here, the switching network. We've had that for quite a long time. I don't remember the numbers now. We have thousands and thousands of devices in management. And this is the cloud console for data services that I showed in the slide earlier. And so that's your network, that's your storage, and of course you need your compute. And if you just don't even want that stuff, you just want to put it on some third-party site or at off-prem, we can do that and just simply provide you, just the interface and nothing but. But again, all this stuff is really on-prem. It's all in your environment. And then there's all sorts of shortcuts, quick actions that you can get to just so you can get in there very quickly. We have applications now. We're going to add many more. I'm going to touch on that very briefly. Let me see my time. I am for that time. I was thinking I was doing well. So we have applications. We have devices that you're going to add to that infrastructure. See, this just shows you what I was saying before, that portfolio. We have a storage MP, which is our block and our file array. Here's a Nimble platform. That's a 6050. There's an Electra. There's some Proliant servers. There's a bunch of stuff. And you can manage all that directly, underneath or behind that cloud. And then you can manage who has access to what. So you have to give your departments access to things without breaking anything, and let them, use what they paid for, or let them create and expand their own environments. So back to the console, these are portals or doorways into into those infrastructures. So let's go right into the cloud services. Again, this is a live environment, so we'll wait for it. Do that. So I talked about some applications. We have backup and recovery. This is actually our store one's um, um, code in the cloud, and I'll touch on that a little bit more. Block storage and service, Cloud Physics, a company we acquired, which is analytics. It shows you throughput, IOPS, bandwidth. It lights up your infrastructure, not just RAs, but anything you have, so you can see what it looks like. By the way, we offer that for free. You don't have to do it from here. We can call us up. We'll give you a little piece of code that'll just look at the vCenter. Anything the vCenter sees, it'll see. And that way you can get a tally and an audit for your management to, what kind of things you might need or whatnot. Disaster recovery is another application, Zerto, and so we'll touch on that, of course. And then Data Ops Manager is how you yourself might manage that behind the cloud, behind the curtain. So you can manage the arrays and stuff yourself, or again, you can do it from a front portal. Private Cloud Enterprise Edition steps. We're doing lots of things. Let me just jump right into some of these things because I'm going to run out of time, I can tell. So here's what it looks like. I mentioned there were many things in there, and here they are. There's this, I'm not sure what this is. There's a 6,000. Here's a different array. Oh yeah, no wonder. Greenlink for block storage, that's just a service. Here's a 9,000, which is a Primera. And these are all, we're looking at them all in one thing. And you can look at the latencies that they have, different LUNs, volumes, very easy to create. I can show you that. Let's see if I can actually show you live. You can see their IOPS, throughputs, latency, the volumes themselves, write latency, IOPS. These are all the things that we normally have had access to with InfoSub, but now we have it across all our platforms. And then there are some issues, some alerts. There's some intelligent recommendations how to solve some things. In this case, people are pulling plugs, removing things, and so they're messing my environments. So across the top, you can see the systems. There's 5 of them. I can click on it right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can go back here to the hamburger stack, and I can go to there. So here's that dashboard. I can go to that hamburger stack. You can see the systems, the storage, or going here, the volumes, the hosts, and the shares. Or I can just do through here. I used at the very beginning, I had many different apps, like I talked about Cloud Physics or recovery or disaster. Once again, it's the different ways you can get to many different things, but it makes it very easy and available for you. So here are the volumes. You can click on any volume and look at it, and take a look at the workloads that are on it. Just see what kind of performance we might see. You can drill down pretty much to any level, see the capacity that's there, what kind of performance metrics are going on, cross correlation, that telemetry the system will recommend. I think this one allows you to zoom into it. Yes, it does. There you go. We just zoomed into it. You can reset it for a 1-week view or a 1-month view. And at any point in time, here's a little blip. Let me just highlight that little blip. And you'll see our window then zooms into that, and then you see what's interesting about why was there an IOPS spike, and of course throughput as well, which is a little odd because normally performance is IOPS or throughput. It kind of tends to be one or the other. It's a balance of that. Anyway, that's how you can get a lot of information, and you can go and present this to a department so that they don't have access. Notice how the access is gone. There's no more storage devices. Here, I'll show you that once again. You're the Data Ops Manager. You can look at those systems, You can see the volumes and hosts, but if you present something to a department, they can't even touch that array. But they can see what they have. They can see their SharePoints, they can see their applications, all those sorts of things to make it very self-sufficient. And let me go into volume here. And right, they did that, didn't they? Okay. I was going to create one live one more time. And they don't have the little link there. I'll try one other route. And it's Arizona deauthorization. Doesn't look like they have it. But not to worry. I have a backup. Like any good data person, you should have a backup. Okay, so those are, let me just show you that from this console, you can go to those different applications of backup and recovery, again, which is our store one. So you can also go to the service, disaster recovery, which is our Zerto. You can do it as a service, and you can launch it there here. In fact, I can just launch it now. Yeah, I'm doing well. So you can see you can back up not only your your own virtual machines, but we can back up Amazon machines. Here's your VMware. We can back up applications, and we're going to support Azure Stack and GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So you can create um, policy protection policies here, and then decide which of these arrays that you saw at the beginning you're going to move things from and move things to, and you create policies such that these are for for critical applications. Here's a description of what that might be, and so whenever you create a volume, they have protection policies built into them. Let me just jump right back out very quickly and show you the same for um, DR. So here's the Zerto, and you can have those virtual managers for different locations. In protection groups, I'm going to touch on that specifically in that last third of the discussion, and then the VMs that you're going to protect. And my Hamburg stack can show me the protection groups, and yeah, only have one. But you can also do reports where you can actually run a report and show compliance for in SLED for government and or for management or for executives to show your DR policies and execution on that. Let me touch on that once again. So let me show you that. Okay. I'm going to show you that. Here we go. Where I was going to create live a group. So I took some shots of that. So here's where we're at. Here's that little plus that I was looking for that was missing. Once again, in your environment, you certainly had more control and access certainly than I do. But here's those same volumes that you saw earlier. I took a screenshot at the time. And so what you can do is create another one. And this is very, very different than anything that you have seen. No one has this. This is AI-driven intent-based provisioning. What you do is I want to create a volume. So let me add one. And it creates a dialog, says, okay, what do you want? What kind of workloads do you have? You set these up, by the way, in advance. We have some templates too that you can use and leverage. But you say, I want a workload that has these certain attributes. It's SQL. Let me just go back to it. It's SQL. I want to create just one volume, 50 gigabytes in size. And here's the host groups that I want to connect to. Fine. I recommend you put it on this one. You can say, I don't care what you recommend. I can change that and put it on a different one. Or no, you know what? That was probably a good one because it has the most space available or it has the right performance characteristics. Nevertheless, you can say, sure, thank you for the info. Let me place it on that one. And it's going to look to create that volume. Once again, you can change your mind as to which one you might want to put it to. And it'll go ahead and create you give it the name you want to put in, and what's the set of this, and here's that protection policy that I showed you in the live demo. Well, they'll have a protection policy, and it also has any data services that you might want to enable, like data reduction, deduplication, and so on. And Finally, it just says, here's what you asked me for. You said a Microsoft server, just one volume. Here's how big it is. That's the name you gave me. Put it on that array, not this array. Here's the systems I'm going to connect to, the hosts that are going to see it. It's going to be SQL set and ready to go. And you just say, do it. And it creates it and it does it. So that's why we've been able to basically populate a cover across our Electras now, single brand. And it really doesn't matter which one of those are behind it. The AI will try to, depending what policies you're implementing, will put it behind it. You see this, you saw this console. This one I'm going to just show you very quickly the backup and recovery. And the this is as a service. Once you're on this console, you have that layer that you can now just point and click to any of these applications. Here's that array that I had. I want to take snapshots. I'm going to snap, snap, snap. They're all going to be there. You know what? I want to create a backup. Where are you going to back it up to? I'm going to back it up to that, that hybrid thing that you told me that is cheaper and bigger and fatter. And so I'm going to back it up to that and do an archive there. And you know what? I'm also going to back it up to the cloud. And that premise will just simply point to it, whichever one you want to do. So you can actually look at any one of those snaps, and then you can see here, you can delete it, you can change the expiration of that, you can retrieve it. So I'm going to look to restore that one. And if you want to restore it, it'll say, so do you want to put it on the same one, like overwrite it, or you want me to restore it to a brand new one? No, I want a new one so I can pull some stuff out because somebody's asking for something. So that's really kind of the demo portion of it. Let me jump now to pivot to the, I'm sure you'll be happy to hear, to the third and final. So how are you going to protect that? That was the classic refrain, and I was at EMC. How are you gonna back that up? How are you gonna protect it? But in this world, you protect things not just simply by backing up. You protect things from cyber threats. Well, this company that we acquired and built in, you saw in the console, we have it as a DR as a service, or you can acquire the software, install it locally. Many customers, it's been around for quite a long time. Very well-known name brands, very trusted for some time. And what it's designed for, Zerto, again, the security showcase, is to protect you from these cyber threats, that data use that I was alluding to, that I so love, the storage. But also from that disruption, they can mess with your logs and it creates a real big problem. And it's also very complex on how you protect such an environment. We have a solution, this Zerto, as Brianna said, zero RTO. It offers continuous data protection, CDP, and addresses each of those things that I just touched on: cyber threats, disruption, and cloud complexity. And it's designed in a way that can allow you to do that at scale. And here's what I mean by that. Here's the home stretch, and if there are any questions, we'll be able to address them as well. So architecturally, it's at a higher level, not at the array levels, not at the hardware levels. At a ESX cluster, you put a Zerto virtual machine, and it sees the data store. And here at your DR side, you put another virtual machine, and it sees that data store. So they talk to each other. There's no app to add to, there's nothing, no drivers to install. There's nothing there. It's really just a virtual machine sitting there watching everything that's happening. And when it sees any IO, before it goes down to the ESX cluster, it actually sends a copy and sends it to the other one right here. You keep a track of that for me. And so that's how it keeps track. So this actually came from, if you're at all familiar with, oh gosh, I just forgot the name of it. Well, Recover Point was an appliance from EMC that came from Kasha. That's the name. It's a startup over in Canada, and they developed an appliance to do just this. It's an IO splitter, in effect, but it was hardware based, and you had to install it, and it had to be that hardware. The difference here is that this group that created Kasha, that then created Recover Point, they went and started a different company and advanced the technology into what is now known as Zerto, which we acquired. So you not only can put this on top of our software, you saw the console, you can put out any software. All you need to see is an ESX cluster, and you can back up NetApp if you want. You saw me backing up Amazon. So it's not even just anything, any to any, it's any to any cloud for that matter. So that's really what makes it scalable as well. And it's also multi-cloud. And it's really no drivers to install, nothing to add. It's just simply a VM. And then the way it works is that it just splits that I/O as I mentioned. So it just keeps log. It just keeps track of all that stuff. And so if a disaster occurred, if it was in this case 10 a.m., that could have been yesterday. If you backed it up, if you took snapshots, it could have been some time ago. But of course, if you're tracking all the IOs, it's really like a 5-second rewind point. And the analogy that they used to use quite often, which I think is still the best, is a TiVo. It's like a TiVo. You can pause live IO and just kind of rewind back. So I guess now the term is digital video recorders because I guess they're more common. But that's literally what it does. And the way you would work is that in the current environment, you have a backup, like I mentioned, or snaps, and you have to have the app server, the web server, the database server. You have to quiesce all the logs and the IOs, and you have to put them all together, and everything has to be in sync. And at a certain point, you have a recovery point, but those are not good. They take a long time. They may be hardware recoverable, but not necessarily application recoverable. But with Zerto, it is. Because you create a group, because it's a virtual machine. It says, see all those virtual machines? Yeah, they're all together. Oh, so it'll keep track of all IO for all those as a group. That means they're all in sync. That means you can recover literally at an application, well, yeah, at an application level, uh, the entire infrastructure needed to support that application, all in sync, at a 5-second increment. So that's pretty good. And here's kind of what the console looks like. I'm going to run through a little bit, but I talked about being able to issue those licenses. You saw me in the demo. That there was a button there where you can restore that. So you can say, hey, I want you to actually do a failover of this Exchange cluster. So they're all there. They're all together as a group. You simply tell it to fail, or in this case, this is a recovery. And this is just like a snapshot. Just recover from that point in time, and it'll recover. And remember that when on that one that I showed, it asked me whether you want to recover onto the same site or to a different site. You can recover, or you can just test it out. And we have a nice sandbox area, and you can just recover to a different site and show that it actually did work and actually do a failover. And then you can provide that result to your management. You can fail over anytime you want now, not just once a year, but once a day if you wanted to. This is the final turn here, so that's good. And how does that relate to our threats of cyber attacks? And that's that they're different. They're not like hey, something failed, let me recover. These things can sit in there. Quite honestly, I'm surprised median dwell time 5 to 9 days. They're closer to 5 to 9 weeks or more. Some of these things can stay in there for quite a long time, and you don't know that they're there. So nothing really failed. It's kind of like that app data gap that I talked about. How do you know where they are? What do I recover from? So that could be a problem because not only can things become encrypted, but also you don't even know at what point in time, when anything was good. So we have Zerto version 10 just came out, not on May the 4th, but it came out, I don't know, 4 weeks ago or something like that. And you get it, no additional charge. It's included in your license. Yeah, again, you can use this as a service, so you can just use it. Hey, I want to DR this VM. I want to DR that VM, and we'll charge you on a per use basis, or you can acquire the software and just protect your entire environment. And the new feature is that AI that I alluded to at the start. I know it was hard to believe first that you can really root cause troubleshoot 20 to 30 minutes. It's impossible. Nobody could do that. Well, nobody could do it, but AI can do it. Like I said, if you don't believe it, check out ChatGPT and see what things you can do with AI. So what we do now is we have a triumvirate of nodes checking your applications, and the database, the Active Directory, the web server, the application, they all look different, and it sees them and it watches them and say, yeah, they do look different. And the only analogy I can give that makes sense to me is that it's like, at an airport or something, you see a TV and you can tell right away what you're watching because you can look at it and see, and it looks different. You say that's a sports game, that's a news show, that's a soap opera, and this is a home shopping thing. And you know that they look, kind of what they look like. And the AI knows the pattern. And sometimes you get false positives, and that's why there's three of them. And but right away when something's been encrypted because the whole screen is white noise, and that's not a sports channel. And that's what this thing does. It says, wait a minute, somebody did something, and I know they did it. So I'm going to put a marker at this point in time. And the other ones, debate and say, no, not yet, or they put something in there, and they can then obviously, if there was nothing there, they know enough to not put that there. Why is that important? Because then you have the ability to have those TiVo-like functionality markers that say, hey, I don't know when this happened. I just know that somebody came in and, oh, that's a vault. Somebody came in and things encrypted now. And, when can I restore from? And so with Zerto, you can actually have points in time when say, well, I remember at one point in time, this is what happened. So you can actually restore from those points. And you can run your own tools as well. And we have other tools uh, uh, um, um, that we offer. Racktop, they do preventative. It doesn't affect any of your current infrastructure, but it allows you to recover very quickly from any point in time. And so you have a production environment and a replication environment, but we also have offered one third component to that, and that's a vault. And so why would you need a vault if you already have a primary and a DR? And the reason for that is you want to maintain some form of air gap, and we have this sometime connected device. Check my time. And it is connected, but it is all initiated by the remote location. It's the only one that initiates the connection, that initiates at a designated time from a designated location that nobody knows where it is. You know, but nobody else would because it's not connected. How do they know? It's air gapped. And so it creates a connection to your DR site and says, give me that stuff. And it does it immediately because it's very high speed. Obviously, it's not tapes. And then it disconnects and disables the connection. So nobody can start it and nothing ran on it. So now you have this vault that everything's been locked in there. The reason you need it is because I already mentioned these points. I already mentioned these points because when you want to recover from an attack, your primary environment is compromised. And it turns out that the policy for cyber attacks is that even a recovered site that may have that same contamination propagated to the DR as well, because who knows how long it was. You can't just, you can select your app that you want to recover. Say, I think this is a spot that's clean. I'll check it. Let me go ahead and bring that back up and recover, my workload. The problem is that how do you know that that site is not itself contaminated? And actually, policy is for cyber threats that you are supposed to come up with a clean environment that you can recover to that is not compromised. I myself have had a handful of customers that have had cyber attacks. Unfortunately, now it's more than a handful, maybe. And they've been in the news, and FBI gets involved. There's a lot of stuff happening. So how are you going to recover when you can't even literally might not even have access to your arrays? The vault that we now offer from Zerto, the Cyber Resilience Vault, can let you do that. It is a full stack. I talked about we're one of the very few companies that offer both. It's not both. The 3-2-1, the servers, the network, the storage, all this stuff is ours, including the Zerto Vault is ours. It's all our IP now. And so what you can do is you can take that same points that you would have done and mount that and just bring it back up. You have servers there, client servers, best in class. You have that Zerto virtual machine that read that point, and you're able to restore from an unknown location, an undisclosed facility in a bunker somewhere. You're back up and running. You can bring your application back. You can bring your business back. So there you have it. That's how you protect the data, and that's how you recover from a clean protection site with a newly introduced vault location, which you can configure yourself. We, quite frankly, but we also have it offered as a bulletproof self-contained unit. And this is an actual case. I forgot now which one it was, but I can actually go and find out and show that it was tested by one of the um, 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 information companies, and they ran through what was a 3.5 day recovery period. As I mentioned, you have to go through and find the non-contaminated environments. And they, in this case, because of this vault, and that's why we offer it now, they were able to recover in 2 hours. Of course, you can recover in 2 hours. Everything's there. It's all clean. You got the servers, you got networks, you have storage. Of course, you can turn that on and recover from that environment. So that's really it. And I think I'm on time. Thought I'd be done a little bit earlier. Hopefully you'll see some of the things I talked about AI quite a bit. I talked about the cloud, and I did mention some of these features like the data protection and even Zerto, which I showed, are available as a service.